Hi, this is Coach Jay with the UBC podcast. The goal is to provide key information to the basketball community in informative series of 10 to 15 minute sessions. Please like and subscribe to the page to stay updated. Welcome back to Basketball is Broken. This is Volume 2. Basketball is broken because player development is not a priority. Player development is necessary for every kid because you innately come in as something and want to grow into being more. Quick example is you're classified as a shooter, a scorer, a slasher, a rebounder, maybe even a defensive guru, whatever your best skill is, right? Okay, that's fine. But the way you become a better player is by adding to your overall skill set. You definitely want to lean on your strengths, but you need to work 3 times as hard on your weaknesses. If you look at an NBA comparison on this, think about Steph Curry and Jimmer Fredette, right? Both are great shooters in their own right. One became an all-time great and the other fizzled out. The biggest difference to me is that one became a complete guard while the other remained a shooter who could not create his own shot or facilitate well enough for others. Development is not an easy task when programs and coaches value program growth over player growth. Let me say that again. Program growth over player growth. The reason you will see kids that are phenoms not getting better is because they are used as tools to attract other players, to complete on circuits, and to expand social media presence. Everyone has holes in their game. The simplest way to understand and start fixing holes in your games is to do a self-assessment. Every player knows what people allow them to do or challenge them to do on the court. It might sound like this. Let them shoot. Send them left. Make them put it on the floor. Instead of working on your strength, in your spare time, challenge yourself to do the things that you are uncomfortable with. YouTube has 9 million videos on how to work on X, Y, and Z. And if you need a suggestion, feel free to ask. Development should ideally be a slow but steady process. It should be phases. Let's say you want to work on your free throw shooting and you're terrible at it. I mean, historically bad. On average, you're a 10% free throw shooter. If you shoot 100 shots a day for the next 6 months with consequences added, say you run a suicide whenever you shoot under 50%, I guarantee you'll shoot 80% from the line or you'll give up from basketball. You are only as good as your habits, so let's develop some good ones. Let's talk about one of my least favorite topics, training, right? To be honest, I don't have a problem with training. I actually encourage it for most kids that develop a good fundamental base. My problem with training is it has replaced actual runs. It amazes me that it's hard to find consistent runs that allow kids the ability to test out their new moves in an unstructured, consequence-free environment. My main beef with training is honestly the trainers. Right? Training instead of playing basketball creates a void in kids being creative and understanding the flow and pace of the game. Most kids become robotic and don't understand how to shift, move from a cone drill to a live defender. The ability to build confidence usually comes from scoring in individual one-on-one matchups when kids are playing stuff like King of the Court or just, again, open runs and being able to get a move off. It makes kids feel more comfortable with what they've trained on. Now, my issue with trainers. 70% of the trainers are in a very precarious position as they truly are specialty trainers. They want to provide flash and amazing moves, but unfortunately they miss the mark on how to train. Most kids that come into training really need to sharpen their fundamentals prior to providing them with bag work. Instead, they receive training on skills that the trainer actually never used. If you think about the age range of most trainers, somewhere between 25 to about 40, 45, right? Of the crop of current trainers, they were watching players that are no longer in the NBA. My generation and younger grew up not watching or playing basketball the way it currently is being played. The Ginobili Eurostep, the Iverson crossover, the Dirk fadeaway were moves that were innovative in our time. Currently, you have the Harden step back, Kyrie's crossovers, the way the LaMelo move, Steph shooting from half court. Like, this is stuff that none of us were doing in high school. We weren't doing it collegiately. Yet trainers are teaching your kids to do these things, which is absolutely ridiculous. If I didn't do it, I'm not training it. I can encourage you on how to do this correctly, but I'm not training it as a first step. The last part of this is training without understanding and purpose. Since most of these kids and trainers just do a wash, rinse, and repeat method, not much is accomplished. In any form of training, it should be done with a greater purpose than just sharpening skills. What I mean by that is it should translate to in-game skills. I can't teach a kid that's going to go back to his high school or AAU team to play like James Harden when the coach has a role for him of standing in the corner and shooting threes like Kyle Korver. It doesn't relate, right? So let's make a pact of training should never be a replacement for actually hooping, because what I'm saying is kids have the bag of Santa Claus, but a basketball IQ of a baked potato. Let's stop handicapping these kids because it's very clear they are not training, they are not learning. The game is not getting better in the US. Let's grow the game. Last but not least, I want to touch on the fact of lack of IQ in basketball now. Honestly, it falls on a plate of numerous people, whether it be coaches, mentors, parents, the NBA game itself, right? But before I just sit and place blame and do all that lovely stuff, I want to give what I say is my IQ equation, right? The way that players develop their IQ is by first and foremost playing the game, right? Unstructured basketball, meaning not under the whistle, and structured basketball, playing under the whistle. Emulation of their favorite player. So if their favorite player is Steph, they're going to try and play the game the way that Steph plays the game. And then the last thing is their understanding or lack of understanding of rules. So, how we can help a player build their IQ is, like I said, if their favorite player is Steph, instead of just watching Steph Curry highlights, have them watch an entire game of the Warriors and don't even watch the rest of the team. Just watch Steph Curry. Watch when he has the ball in his hands, when he doesn't have the ball in his hands. What is he doing defensively? Is he helping rebound? How is he getting the steals that he's getting? How is he facilitating? Right? So those are things that you should know. Now, while also watching the game, you have to understand the game. Quick understanding lesson is this. If you read the rules of the game that you're in, you'll understand very quickly that elementary schools don't have a shot clock. The NBA does. A lot of kids that are trying to mimic Steph are trying to play like him under the rules of a 24-second shot clock. That is not conducive to helping them grow as a player because they're not skilled enough and they're probably not running a detailed enough offense to run a set of plays inside of 24 seconds that's going to be efficient or effective. Then it's also just the fact that kids just don't have a feel for the game. I stated it earlier. They don't play 5-on-5 basketball enough. Now, this may be a bit controversial, but I do feel like it is something better that kids can do instead of playing 5-on-5 basketball, which is playing 3-on-3 or 2-on-2. The reason being is you can't be lazy playing 3-on-3 or 2-on-2 basketball. It causes you to do a lot more things that are fundamentally sound, that are stronger. For example, you're going to set a screen, you're going to roll. When you pass, you cut, you pass, you move. So it's a lot more that happens inside of games where you're limited as far as the number of team members that you have, or at least it should be. So let's help everybody build our IQ by developing good habits, watching the game correctly, playing the game correctly. Let's fix basketball, guys.